Hey everyone, we want to welcome you to our first episode of Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. Now, this podcast is not your typical podcast. What we're essentially trying to do is do something different from your typical, we have a guest, share your success story, share some tips, everyone goes about their merry day. What I realized from listening to a lot of podcasts is that for me, someone at 41 in midlife, we go through a lot when we're getting older. Adulting can be hard. A lot can change as far as our health, our work responsibilities, our family responsibilities, trying to deal with technology, and many, many other things. And so, what I wanted this show to be about is really let's be real. Let's really understand what people are really going through in midlife in a way that helps people that are going through it and sometimes struggling with it silently to be able to resonate and say, you know what? I understand where so and so is coming from. And it's good to know that I'm not alone here. And so, what this show is about is providing honest, open, and transparent conversations with people I respect and admire that are doing great things, that are experiencing midlife, and are willing to share the story behind the success as well. So, with that being said, we are grateful for you to be on. And I'm also very grateful to welcome our very first guest, Alison Bladh. Alison is a #1 international best-selling author, award-winning registered nutritional therapist, and beauty therapist. With over 30 years of experience in the health and wellness industry, Alison has specialized globally in women's health during midlife, menopause, and beyond. She's also the author of Have a Magnificent Menopause, a straightforward guide to looking good and feeling great, which has reached #1 internationally across multiple categories. Alison now runs her own online clinic, helping women worldwide manage the negative symptoms of menopause through tailored online programs, including her popular 21-day reboot and reset program, as well as one-to-one consultations. As an accomplished author, speaker, and webinar host, Allison's mission is to support her clients with bespoke changes to diet, health, and lifestyle, enabling them to harness their hormones and regain their confidence and sparkle. She firmly believes that all women, no matter their age, deserve to reclaim their health and feel fantastic. Life is too short to suffer from symptoms that hold you back, and every woman has the right to feel and look amazing in midlife and beyond. Allison specializes in supporting busy, time-poor women who are dealing with stress, depression, weight gain, and a loss of confidence, among other challenges. When she's not working, she loves spending time with her family, cooking, and experimenting with new recipes. She's also a keen scuba diver, golfer, hiker, beekeeper, and enjoys being in the great outdoors. Allison, welcome to Life After 40 Conversations.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your podcast. It's lovely to be here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. So, love to go ahead and get started. Um, so, with all that being said about you, I love to get your personal take. Before the titles and the resumes, who is Allison in this season of life?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There's when if you're really honest with yourself, if I think of my season of life, which is a lovely way of putting it, that there's so much now that I am now that I've changed from when I was in my 20s and 30s. Uh, who I am now is I'm a confident, successful woman with that knows what I want. Whereas, when I was younger, you don't necessarily have the same confidence. You don't necessarily know what you want. So I feel in my body now in this season of life, I feel very motivated and yeah, just confident with life. Life feels good.
Mhm. That's good. When you were going through midlife, and I normally characterize midlife as between 35 to 55 years old,
Mhm.
when did you first realize for yourself that something had shifted for you?
I think for women, particularly when you get, well, when I came up to around 43, 44, I started seeing shifts, and predominantly this is to do with the hormonal shifts that women go through in perimenopause, which is the first stage of menopause. And this can really kind of just hit you, and it did, even with my knowledge, of this, the effect that the hormone declines has on women. I started noticing things like I was more irritable, I didn't have as much energy, I was exhausted for no reason, and things like hot flashes, not being able to sleep as well, waking up in the early hours of the morning. That's what I really noticed happened to me in midlife, quite subtly, but enough to for you to realize that, hold on a minute, what is actually going on here? I didn't feel like this when I was in my 30s, in my 20s. All of a sudden I feel like I don't know my own body anymore.
Yeah. So when you were experiencing those shifts, what did you feel like used to work for you that suddenly didn't anymore?
Yeah. Really, what I felt was when I got older and into my 40s, I'm in my 50s now, but particularly in my 40 to 45, you can't get away with how you behave when you're in your 20s and 30s. Unfortunately, you have to prioritize your well-being. You have to look at what you eat, how you live your lifestyle. I really started to think, how can how can I gain back my energy? How can I feel better? I can't behave or go to bed as late as I used to in my 30s. That doesn't work anymore because you just feel exhausted. That extra glass of wine maybe at the weekends that you could have when you were younger just makes you feel terrible now. It's just small things. What my main realization was that I have to prioritize me.
Mhm.
Now I can't look after everybody else. Women tend to have a tendency, don't they? We're the carers and we look after everybody. We come at the bottom of the list. I realized that I had to put myself further up the list and really spend more time on looking after myself so I could feel, better in my body.
Mhm. No, it's definitely a keen observation, especially, one of the things we try to combat here at Life at 40 is just the thought of the myth that self-care is selfish. And
Mm,
to your point, Allison, is that oftentimes, especially for women, I found is like, to care for yourself, it's seen as a bad thing, even though a way of looking at it is by taking better care of yourself, for those who love caring for others, it puts you in a better place to care for other people, including your loved ones, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, and when it came to midlife for you, Allison, what do you think surprised you the most about this season?
yeah. What surprised me the most? There's quite a lot of surprises, aren't there? Um, I think one of the things that really hit me was that stress. I think one thing that really surprised me was that stress hits you differently. You know, I realized that I would get very stressed and anxious over things that was never stressed about before. Stress really does kind of hit you differently. You can't manage stress. Well, I'm obviously talking for myself, we're all different, but I felt that I couldn't manage stress in the way that I did when I was younger. I would get anxious over smaller things that before wouldn't have bothered me. That was actually quite a surprise because I am in general quite a relaxed, easy-go-lucky person. I don't really get stressed, but all of a sudden experiencing stress in that way was a big surprise to me actually, because I'd never experienced it like that before.
Mhm. When you think about midlife for you, what did midlife force you to stop ignoring, and what changed once you paid more attention to it?
Yeah, I one of the key things for me as well was boundaries. Um, I realized that I couldn't say yes to everything. You know, you I do like to say yes. I've been working on that. I've working on my boundaries. And I found that because you're feeling exhausted, if you say yes to every single thing just because you feel that you want to, you don't want to upset people, it just becomes too much. So I actually put that in place, and I am much better with that now. That saying it's okay to say no, and you'll find, in midlife when you discover that and you realize that I don't actually have to say no to please everybody, say yes to please everybody. I can actually say no. And I've started doing that and it feels great. It's like a very nice feeling to be obviously in a nice way. You're not being horrible. You're saying no because you haven't got the energy, or you don't actually, if you're being truthful with yourself, you don't actually want to do that. I mean, there's many times I found myself saying yes to things, and then immediately afterwards, you feel your body is like, "Oh, why did I say that? I really don't want to do that. I haven't got time to do it." So setting boundaries has been a big one for me, and I can really feel how that has improved my life by being able to say no and not feeling guilty about it.
No, that's really powerful because I think, with regards to boundaries, like I'm a recovering people pleaser myself, right? It's hard to say no to people because not so much that you realize you can't do it or you shouldn't do it. You're more concerned about somebody's perception of you afterwards or disappointing somebody. Oftentimes we'll do more to make sure we don't disappoint somebody else, even if it's at the expense of ourselves, right? Um, so I can definitely resonate with that. So I know we talked about, boundaries, sleep, stress, among other things here. And I'm glad to see that you have made a change for the better for yourself. I'm curious, if you had not made some of these changes and you stayed going the same way you had before when you were younger, what do you think it might have cost you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely, without doubt, it would have cost me my energy because I found, in midlife and as I age, that I don't have that same energy that I had when I was younger. And if I hadn't been able to set boundaries, if I hadn't worked on, myself and looked after myself with nutrition and lifestyle management, I would have just been exhausted. I don't think I would have been a very nice person because I probably would have been very stressed, very irritable, having to going back to people pleasing all the time and just feeling terrible because, if you, it's particularly nutrition, if you don't look at what you eat as you age as a woman with all the hormonal shifts, it really can make you terrible. So I think I would have been probably quite unhappy and very exhausted.
I agree. It's one where it's just oftentimes it really kind of hits you like a bunch of bricks in the head. It's just like, man, like what my life could have been if I didn't make some of these changes. I'm glad I realized when I did. And so, with that being in mind, Allison, what do you feel like now when you think about like your beliefs, rhythms, or habits? What are some of those that you feel like are now non negotiable for you at this stage?
Yeah, one thing that is non-negotiable for me is exercise, is movement, and I see a huge difference if I don't have the time, if I've been very busy or traveling with work or whatever. And even if I haven't been able to do some sort of exercise or movement, I like to do something every day. That is a huge, for me personally, is a huge thing, because if I don't do that, I just feel drained. It also affects me mentally. I don't feel as motivated. I feel tired, just sluggish in general. So exercise absolutely is non-negotiable for me. Um, and for me, it's non-negotiable that I'm more intentional with my health. I'm very much more aware of my health than I was when I was younger. I don't take it for granted anymore. I really cherish, health, because if you haven't got health, you haven't really got anything, have you? So I'm very intentional with what I eat, movement I've spoken about, but how I live my daily life in a way that supports my body rather than draining it. And those things as well, food, being a nutritionalist is a non-negotiable for me as well. I'm very, I have many opinions about what I should eat and also my family should eat.
Hmm.
But in a realistic way, I'm not strict, but I like eating whole foods that nourish my body rather than eating lots of packaged foods and foods that contain a lot of sugar that affect, your blood sugar and just make you feel terrible. So I would say food and exercise are two things that are actually non-negotiable with me now that I'm older.
That makes sense.
Mm.
And so when you think about now, Allison, what does thriving look like for you now?
Thriving. That's such a wonderful word, isn't it? I think thriving is overall wellness, isn't it? It's holistic wellness. For me, it's feeling, getting up in the morning and feeling good, feeling happy, getting out of bed and looking forward to the day ahead, rather than, just crawling out of bed and feeling tired and wondering, oh, what's going to happen to me today, or how does the day look ahead of me? Um, it's living a joyful life, and okay, I'm realistic, we can never be totally happy all the time, but I really appreciate having a life that makes me happy and can be enjoyed. I think we tend to always move towards negativity, don't we, as human beings? We always look at the negative side of things. I like to get my brain more in the focus of looking on the positive side of things. And I'm not saying that's easy sometimes, but it just makes you feel so much better. And that certainly is a shift that I've been very aware of and I've worked on as I've got older and in midlife to look at life in a very positive way, because we're not here for that long, are we? We have a very short time on this planet. You know, enjoy it as much as you can rather than being, looking at everything on the negative side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been really insightful and helpful here, Allison. I do appreciate this a lot, this conversation we're having. Now, if someone is listening into this conversation between you and me, and that someone feels like they're quietly drifting or even burning out in midlife, what do you want them to hear from you right now?
What I would like them to hear from me right now is to just stop, take a deep breath, stop whatever you're doing, just sit down or stand up wherever you are. Just take a deep breath in and out and decide that you are going to control how you feel and you are going to control your life. Because if you really focus on feeling better, even if you're feeling burnt out and terrible, there's always a better way. There's always a way that you can feel better. Get the support that you need. Talk to friends and family. don't suffer in silence because life is for living.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Allison, this has been really a great conversation we've had on this show here, and I really appreciate it. And so, for people that are listening in that resonate with where you're coming from here with this conversation as a whole, from you and your perspective, and they want to follow your work or your reflections here today, where's the best place that they can connect with you?
The best place to connect with me is on my website because I've got all my links, all my social media links there, and that is alisonbladh.com. If you search for Alison Bladh, you'll find me. And you'll also find me on all different social media platforms. And I have my book, Have a Magnificent Menopause, which is full of realistic advice on how to feel and look great during this next phase of life. And that you can get on Amazon and all bookshops. There's also information on my website about it.
Excellent. Well, Allison, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to have this conversation with us. I thought it was very helpful, very open, honest, and vulnerable that I believe is going to be helpful for a lot of people worldwide listen to this conversation. And thanks so much for everyone listening in. I think this is one that is really going to resonate with people, like really take in what Allison mentioned before, with regards to, stress, non-negotiables as far as food and exercise. Um, this is what the show is about. It's helping people understand that you're not alone going through midlife and having guests like Allison being able to help out just from their own life experience really can be of help to you. So, with that being said, this is Philip Blackett signing off here. Thanks so much, Allison, for being a part of this conversation. And just as a reminder, people, midlife is worth living and worth living well. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next episode on Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett.